I am on cloud 9 right now because I had one of the most amazing mentor experiences ever. Oh, it's so awesome. This young lady that I'm working with, she has had so much trauma in her life that it was just sticking her. She was not moving. She was just constantly having to repeat the same stuff over and over again and not making any progress. And so she was getting frustrated, and it was really affecting the rest of her life. Well, we had a huge breakthrough this morning. Awesome! Huge breakthrough. And that actually is what leads to what I want to talk about today. This is powerful. In your life, you will have struggles. It's inevitable. You'll have different challenges, you'll face different obstacles, but in our past, we've developed a reaction to when we have a struggle. When we're bored, lonely, angry, stressed, tired, overwhelmed, fearful, afraid. Anytime we have some of those type of experiences, our body instantly, our mind instantly takes a reaction, and it goes to, sometimes it's a substance, sometimes it's a mental behavior, sometimes it's picking on ourselves, sometimes it may be, self-abusive behaviors and just mental abuse. Oh, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I can't do anything, I'm horrible. And we go into these deflating and these defeating behaviors that just really are not serving you well at all. Well, in that moment, you just can't do anything. You just feel like, what do I do now? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. So in life, we always have this stimulus. And your stimulus is going to, it can be a physical stimulus. That's an S, by the way. It can be a physical stimulus. It can be a mental stimulus. It can be an emotional stimulus. And what I mean by that is when we feel an emotion, we do something. So there's this stimulus. So this stimulus can be, like I said, it can be an emotion. It can be a physical. It can be a mental. There's all kinds of stimuli that we may experience. Well, when we get that stimulus, then we have this trigger. Here's our trigger. Oh yeah, here's our trigger right here. This is our trigger. When we experience that trigger, when we get that trigger, what are you going to do? Right now, your brain is trained that here's the trigger and it goes right down here to the negative behavior. And that negative behavior, like I said, could be any number of things. It could be a substance, it could be emotional, tearing ourselves up, any number of things. So the negative behavior, it's like here's the stimulus, boom, goes right down here. Here's the stimulus, boom, goes right down here. No matter what, it just keeps following that same path. And you've developed this over years and years and years of this stimuli and trigger and what you do. What we want to do is interrupt. We're going to add an interrupt here. And in that interrupt, we're saying, eek! Instead of it going down to that, we're actually going to add a different point of reference. We're going to add a positive reaction instead of the negative reaction. Now this needs to be the same thing over and over again. So for example, you get your stimuli, the stimulus is walking into a room and you see a picture, and every time you see that picture you get angry. Okay? Let's just say that's it for easy figure. Right now, this is what it's doing. It's just going here, 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 and it just keeps going down to the negative. Well, what we want to do is we are going to rewire. Now when the stimulus goes, we're actually going to engage the prefrontal cortex. We're going to actually think about it. We already know that stimulus is going to happen. So say, for instance, you have a family member that just drives you batty, or a friend who just frustrates you every time you get around them, or it could be any number of things, a job you hate, and you go in and you're walking into this, you know that person's going to be there. You are logically, rationally going to start processing it ahead of time, and you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to this party, and I know so-and-so is going to be there. And so-and-so drives me crazy. He makes me mad, or she makes me mad. And every time I get around him, I just get so frustrated. I am choosing not to do that. So instead, every time I see this person or I think of this person, I'm going to reroute my behavior. And instead of going to this negative behavior that I have been going to over years and years and years of repeating the same negative behavior, we are adding up interrupt. We're cutting off the tie here, and we're rationally and logically going to think about it. Now I'm going in, I know that person's going to be there, but instead of getting upset, I'm going to choose to remember a positive memory with that individual. Say maybe I went fishing with them. Say I, maybe went and had a wonderful time at dinner, or growing up you had a great experience. Whatever it is, now instead of going to the negative, you go right to that memory. You go right to what you remember about that person that was so amazing, that was so phenomenal, that was so fantastic. That stimuli now, instead of going to the negative behavior like it did before, now it goes to the positive, and we're just flowing it the other way. And this takes a conscious effort, and that's why you pre-plan. You think about it ahead of time. You realize that person's going to be there, and you realize I've got to make a decision, and it's up to you. That is what I'm talking about here, is we've got to control, we've got to manage those triggers when they come. That trigger is going to be there no matter what. We have all kinds of different triggers in our life. But those that trigger us for negative behaviors, we want to alter. We want to rationally, logically think about them so that we sever this option of going to the negative behavior, and that we stay focused on the positive memory, the positive attribute. It could be looking at your phone and having a positive message on there that every time you think about this person or this thing or this action or whatever, you look at your phone and there's a positive memory. It's got to be the same one. So even here, this stimuli, this memory that you think about, it's got to be the same memory, because you've had years and years and years of going to the exact same thing. Now you've got to retrain that. You've got to rewire that so that it goes to the new positive behavior, the new behavior that is going to build and strengthen and uplift and encourage and support. That's what we want to do. Now, in this process, I was talking about a little bit before we started here about how amazing. I just had a wonderful mentoring session. This young lady, I've got a visual aid for you. Now, for those who cannot see this and are watching it listening to it via audio, I'm holding up a tube here. It's an empty blank tube, and this tube represents you. This represents you and your life. And throughout your life, you've had some things come in, and some were positive and some were negative. And so we've got these negative thoughts that come in, and when they come in, we start kind of beating ourselves up, and we think, oh, I'm awful, I'm useless, I'm not worth anything. And we keep putting those negative thoughts in, and we keep putting them, and we keep putting them, and now, we're just full. We're full of negative thoughts, just stuffed full of negative thoughts, negative feelings and beliefs about ourselves. We've allowed our past to now start defining who we are instead of us defining our future. And so what we want to do is, as you start doing these things and you start removing the negative, you need to fill with the positive. So you take, and somebody comes in and you're like, he makes me mad, but I'm going to remember when we went fishing together. Oh, it was so much fun. And we caught these fish, and there was like 20 of them. Oh, so fun. And we put it in. Now notice, as soon as I put a positive thought in, that doesn't mean it pushes all the negative ones out. It doesn't work that way. That'd be phenomenal if it did, but it doesn't. So a positive thought goes in. Well, the stimuli happens again. I'm going to choose again. Uh-oh. See, now look what's happening. The thought's kind of dangling there. It's kind of there, but it's not in. But we start putting more and more and more positive thoughts, and we start pushing all those negative thoughts out. That's what happens when you start doing these tools that I'm talking about, is you start replacing that negative junk that's holding you back, that's been guiding you for years and years and years. You are now replacing it with the positive person you want to be. The person that is loving, caring, supporting, a person that is wanting to encourage and accomplish great things in life. And that's why simple little exercises like this are so powerful, because it starts to change and define who you are because of the amazing individual you are. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Please share this. There's somebody out there right now that needs this. This message is meant for you. Have a wonderful, fantastic, amazing day, because you are amazing.